Okay, some development behind the Cshield situation. So after the last video that I made regarding Cshield and the nerfs that it was receiving on testing, my friend Sunny had sent me just insight on developer stuff. And so this all can be found on the main Realm Discord. So you'll have to go find that. But so here's some background. So this guy, Stratix, which I would just be calling this from here because it's just a nice, quick, easy sound to make. He's the main sort of mind behind the changes that were on testing. So invulnerability is 100% leaving. That is not something that he's like, oh, you know, maybe this is... No, he 100% going, completely going. So we all know that armored is not really the best thing in the world, and it's sort of just like trying to create different things. So one thing, instead of armored, maybe they're like an idea of or like percent of damage reduction sort of thing. They said that they had considered it, but they don't have the tools, and that was sort of a theme. It's like, I do a million other things if I had the tools, right? So we're sort of limited to what is going on, which I feel like is a lame excuse, but it is what it is. It's just not going to be the case. So they're sort of like limited by tools. And so even though the identity, which he says here in the replied comment, the actual identity is it's a held sustained defensive buff. So he wants sort of like that, which invulnerability does do, but it just does too well in their mind. So, you know, maybe we might see some other things coming down the pipeline, I guess, for this problem. The patch that's on testing right now, it's more or less just seeing what they could do. With the balance patch is like a possibility because like their devs are working on other things. So the patch is just kind of like getting something out there first. He says the primary goal was making Cshield not do what it was doing and not have invulnerability in general is not my ideal solution. So just to reiterate, he does not want invulnerability, and he doesn't want the Cshield to be doing what it's doing currently. And I'm not sure what exactly this means. I'm assuming, so he wants the identity to be the same, right? Held sustained defensive buff, but he doesn't want it to be invulnerability, is what I think this is. Not that he wants to rework the whole thing to make it a completely different shield. That's not what I think is going to be, like, what that is supposed to mean. So this sort of comment, you have to read this from bottom to top. This is regarding invisibility. So they say Invisible Knight is kind of really OP for solos, which is something that I had already mentioned in the last video, because yeah, it kind of is. So Distrax wants to remove invulnerability from Knight, and it just doesn't feel good to have a invulnerability for like a held duration invulnerability for a dodging game, and that is you know, expected. He says that especially with Moonlight Village coming out, it would be kind of bad to have a dungeon where the main goal is dodging and you have 6 seconds where you can just become invulnerable. So that checks out. And he talks about Rogue up here, about how Rogue just shuts down certain bosses. And so it's just kind of like, this comment up here is like, we kind of already knew this, where like Rogue shuts down shit a lot. There were examples in the last video that you could see where like, yeah, I kind of did just stand still and it didn't really matter. So it won't be that good, basically. And I do agree with this. So another alternative he was talking about was giving Cshield a % reduction. So for those of you who don't know, if you get petrified, you do take less damage. So even though you're a sitting duck, you do take less damage. So it's not like a complete loss of control. But you still lose control, but it's not like as punishing as you'd imagine. But there might be a unique effect for Cshield, which is just % damage resistant. I don't know if this will change different thresholds, if this stacks with the % based thing where you have to take at least 10% of the damage from any given shot, regardless of your defense. So who knows? And this would solve a problem for piercing shots, like the true damage, like the purple number shots, because armor doesn't really affect that damage. And that also means that we might be seeing different combat thresholds with armored, theoretically. Armored doesn't change your combat trigger, by the way, for those of you who don't know. It's strictly based on your defense. So what Sunny has done for me is made a table, and it sort of shows what damage thresholds would be if armored were to be taken into account. So we have where we sort of see how like 82 defense here is like a 130 damage threshold, where you can take that shot, it'll reduce it and then give you, like, it won't put you in combat. Like, this is the true damage of the shot, and this is the defense that you would need to make it so that this damage doesn't put you in combat, assuming that, like, this isn't an armor piercing shot. And then over here, if we look at the same 82 defense, is now 170, so it's like a 40 damage increase for the shot to actually put you in combat. So it will scale up the more defense you have, obviously, but it just sort of gives more wiggle room if it were to stay unarmored. So we could possibly get passive HP on Cshield. He's not against this. He's, you know, it's, they just say, yeah, I could just slap it on there if it makes him more appealing, but the sort of direction that they're going is the direction they kind of want to keep going, unless, you know, some brain blast moment happens. For that last little passive that was added, you know, that like sort of eye effect, they do say that it's a bit much when paired with the eye, so he might nerf it, but it's, you know, maybe it's hard to tell, right? Because most of the most of the clips that people had gotten were also directly linked with the Matrix, so we're not sure. Also, in regards to Matrix, here's a clip on prod. Keep that in mind. This is on prod. This is Triton Deca, one of the devs who you'll see commonly in game, but I was correct in saying that the Matrix, the way that it went, was a bug. So this is sort of like an on-prod example where he summons a bomb and it just blows up on him with the Matrix armor on. So right, any class can have a Matrix because this is just the default alien armor, and it immediately just keeps him alive, right? So this is a bomb. It is definitely something that can kill. So yeah, it's a bug. So we can't really depend on this. So we're not sure if this damage is enabled strictly from Matrix or not. So we'll have to see where that goes. And just a quick little thing is that they're trying to make it so you can't EP 03 at some point in the future. I do not know what that looks like. I do not know if this affects TP resetting, like the slingshot. Well, slingshotting should be fine, but TP resetting might be nerfed by this. So we'll have to see. So if you're like a world record 03 attempter, you have to kind of do it now, is what I'm saying. Do not wait. If you are thinking about it, do not wait. So that's just a quick little update. There's a lot, is what I'm saying. Though I think that this might be the best outcome, where it just reduces percent base instead of flat rate. I think this is the best move forward, because that doesn't really, you don't need to change the damage thresholds of like the whole, like, oh, you have to take 10%, maybe, you know, I don't know. I think this is the best case moving forward, but I'm not sure. We'll have to see.